right, we're recording, I think. So
Cool.
yeah, number 2 with Michael.
Yeah, totally.
How's it going?
Going well.
Oh, thank you very much.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Two hot waters. Too
Oh,
cold
too
down
cold
here?
here? I understand.
Okay, no worries.
I got it.
Maybe he'll come down later on or something.
Yeah, that works. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, right on, man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello there. This is Joseph Wayne. I'm here with Michael. And we for the Wayne Stock podcast series, interview series. I'm just gonna double check and make sure my thing is recording really fast.
I'm thinking about just having my stage name for this.
Looks like
I
it
didn't
is.
mention that
Sorry,
before.
yeah. What was your stage name?
Michael Bellevue.
Michael Bellevue. Okay,
Yeah.
that's right. Well, how about we start there? Why Michael Bellevue?
Like, I chose it as a stage name because it's cool because it's, like, similar. The first one is similar to my actual name, well, same pronunciation. And then, like, Bellevue, like, I was born in Bellevue and grew up in Bellevue. Though I went to school in Seattle, but it's kind of a cool fake name because, like, it looks... And then, too, like, I like the idea of having a stage name, ideally, because I feel like employers might think, like, if they see my real name attached to comedy, I think they might be like... Oh, this person isn't serious. We can't hire this person.
Yeah,
like,
right. Yeah, he's just a joker.
Oh yeah, since I feel like employers are searching under so many criteria when it comes to like fields like computer science or scientific research or whatever. I feel like a lot of people are judging on so many factors of not just like raw skills or whatever, but
Yeah,
also
totally.
like what kind of person is this?
Sure, yeah, I've seen things with job interviews where they tell you to send along your social media links and things like that.
Oh yeah,
have you
totally,
seen
I've
that
heard of
before?
that. Like I haven't seen it exactly. Actually, I might have. Like I've applied to so many jobs, I
Yeah.
can't remember every single one. But like, yeah, I've heard of that being a thing. Like some people are getting rejected for their social media and stuff.
I mean, you can really get a sense of someone, I think, just based on the way they use social media.
Oh,
right?
totally,
Like,
yeah.
I mean, whether they even use it at all, too. But like,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like there's like a lot of nuanced things. Like, I feel like you use social media kind of in a unique way, though, right? Like,
Oh yeah, totally. Like it's fun posting about like sailing and like what else? Sailing, stand-up comedy, chess, like. Yeah, so many things. And then too, like it's fun to just share stuff about my life or whatever. Because on one hand, it's like I do sort of overshare, but like I feel like I don't know. Like I feel like a lot of people have lives that aren't very interesting, and I feel like it can be kind of interesting for some people who feel like their life is not as interesting to like read about somebody that has like a life that's really unique. Like.
I feel like you are a very unique person.
Oh, totally,
I
yeah.
mean, I'm sure a lot of you probably get that a lot, but like, I think that one thing that I think makes you very unique is how helpful you are.
Oh, thank you. Yeah,
Like,
I've had so many experiences like that. Like I performed last week at an event to raise money for a lobbying group that like helps people with disabilities, and like there was like this random woman outside who was trying to like get her electric rideshare scooter thing to work, and like she wasn't able to get the kickstand. So I said like, hey, like do you need help with that? And she said yeah, sure. And then like I helped her with this kickstand. It's cool too. Like I was holding a sandwich because I had just grabbed the sandwich out of my car to like eat in a venue, because I didn't want to like. Well, I guess there wasn't anything to way to spend money anyway. So I guess I wasn't cheating the place out of money
Sure.
or whatever. But anyway, like yeah, like she like held my sandwich while I like helped with the kickstand on the scooter or whatever, and then like. We left and said thank you to each other. Like I said thank you for holding my sandwich, and she said thank you for helping with the kickstand, and like we never like learned each other's name or anything.
Yeah. Like the last time we were trying to interview on Friday, I think the reason that it got cut short is because you had a commitment to help someone. You were picking up a couple or something like that.
Oh yeah, I was helping like a coworker of mine who was an internet celebrity. Like they like draw stuff. Like their Instagram name is Fran Blam, and like. Yeah, like I drove over to, after like filming a little bit of the interview with you, like I drove over to the zoo with their luggage and their bird, which was in the interview. And then like, that's funny. Like I went to the south entrance and they, like I texted like, okay, I'm here. And then like, I was just trying to figure out like what's going on. Like I don't see them. And then like, it turns out they're at the west entrance. So then I go to the west entrance and I still don't see them. Then it turns out that they're at this other part of the west entrance. But like, yeah, everything worked out though. Like they got to California safely. They made their flight and stuff. Their uncle gave them a ride from the zoo to the airport.
Right on. Yeah. So yeah, we went into why you started comedy. I think it'd be probably good to repeat that, or like what kind of inspired you to begin. It was a person, right?
Yeah, my friend Amethyst.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw her recently. Like, that's another funny experience I had. So, like, my friend Amethyst, she, like, this was, like, the day or two before that interview, something like that. But anyway, like, it was, like, a few days before the interview, but, like, I gave her a guitar of mine to, like, let her friend borrow. And then I got it back the same evening as the last part of the interview we did. And, like, she told me the story of it. I guess her friend, like, teaches music and stuff to kids on Native American reservations.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, she used that guitar, like, to help kids on the reservation learn how to play guitar and stuff. Mm-hmm. And then, like, my friend Amethyst, she, like, gifted it back to me. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really cool. Like, this guitar had, like, quite the, like, cultural experience in a sense. So, yeah.
So tell me about this jacket you're wearing. It's kind of similar to the one you were wearing on Friday.
Yeah, I wish it picked up on the cameras better. It's kind of like sparkly or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
it's got a cool. I'll take a picture of it.
Yeah, it's black with gold sparkles and like yeah, like it was a gift from my friend Ted. Who like it's kind of funny. Like I feel like it's unusual for people who have an interest in women to have friends who are women. Like most of my friends are women, I feel, and then like I feel like a lot of well, I guess I shouldn't say. I guess they switch to using they them pronouns, I believe. But anyway, like they identify as lesbian. I feel like I have more lesbian friends than average.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, this is a jacket that they used to wear that they gifted to me, and like, I like wearing it because like wearing this and other jackets and things they gifted me, I feel like it. Excuse me.
Bless you.
I feel like it helps me feel closer to people that I'm friends with who I don't necessarily get to see as often as I want to.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, it is cool to see people, but at the same time, it's kind of funny too because like I'm also trying to like get more computer science credentials. So sometimes when I do see people, I almost sort of feel like, oh no, I should be studying right now.
Yeah, right on. Well, why do you think you have more lesbian friends than average? Do you feel like you get something out of their perspective, or
I do?
Is it just kind of random, or like is there just kind of like there's like a non-threatening sort of dynamic because there's no like
yeah, because neither person can be interested in the other. It's really cool. I like that. But then it's also like multiple dynamics. For example, like I've noticed that a lot of people who identify as lesbian have family members that are neurodivergent in a way that's similar to me, and then like I feel like a lot of people who identify as lesbian are also similarly neurodivergent to me. So I feel that like how do I say it, like it's fascinating too. Like I feel like part of it is coincidence too. Like I recently I drove up to Vancouver, Canada back in January to see a performance, and like I was talking with two people about a bunch of things. I was telling jokes and stuff with them, and they're laughing along. And I mentioned how like whenever I go to events, I end up like meeting lesbians or whatever, and like they turned out that both of them were lesbian. And I was like, whoa, that's wild. Like just like they laughed because I was like why they were laughing. Like they're like, oh, because both of us are. And I was like, whoa, like it's funny how that works. But I think part of it too is like being around a lot of creative people. Like I feel like there's a high overlap between people who have like ADHD, people who are on the autism spectrum, and people who are artists in one way or another.
Yeah.
And like I don't completely identify as an artist, but like I do write poetry and stuff. And I did a lot more in the past though.
Mm-hmm.
Like from like age 16 to like 25 or so, I did a lot more poetry.
Interesting. So yeah, you're a fan of languages in general, though.
Oh yeah, totally. Like,
yeah. What are some languages that you can speak?
My second is Spanish. I'm somewhat conversational in that. Like I don't perfectly know the past tense, but it's possible to cheat in Spanish. Like if I wanted to talk about running in the past, I could say, or even easier, like what would be an easier one? Like if I wanted to talk about eating in the past, I could be like, en el pasado yo como, or yo come. So then I continue like that. So like come is the present tense, I believe, of like I eat,
mm-hmm.
and then like pasado means past. Mm-hmm. So then I could like combine those.
Okay,
like,
yeah, it's a strategy then. Yeah.
Then like Russian, I can read and write in Russian, and speaking it is harder, as well as like hearing people speak it, because like when I speak Russian, I have a strong American accent, I feel, and that makes it hard even if I am saying it correctly. Like, it's, by correctly, I mean, like, correct grammar or whatever. It's still hard for the person to understand.
I'm just going to pause and check the videos.
Oh, yeah, totally, yeah, it's still in the phone.
Let's see here. Stop that. Get that one going again.
Yeah, I heard it beep there. Like, I hope it...
Looks like it's going along right, and then we'll just see what's going on here. Okay, we're all good. Just kind of checking in, making sure things are running since I'm so new to this whole process. So it's good to be safe.
Oh yeah, totally. It's
be incremental.
Be safe. Yeah.
Well, right on, man. Yeah, let's talk about Waynestock a little bit, if possible.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, like, what are your memories of Waynestock over the years, and like, yeah, what have some highlights been for you?
Oh, like some highlights would be like. 2018, it was fun, like, helping set up this one fabric that was part of the stage. Like, I helped with do some knots with some lines to help keep this fabric in place as like the backdrop for the stage. It was fun too. I got a picture of myself on that fabric, though I don't know if I still have it or not, since like and then like other Waynestock memories, there's like 2019, it's challenging for me to remember much about that. I think after that Waynestock, I think I got a ride from a friend of mine, and like that was cool. Like,
I think we there was like a big party after the second one.
Maybe
I think there was a big party after the first one too, but like it was a bit more like when I was in more of a partying phase of my life. So
wow. Yeah,
I believe that there was a big party that a lot of my friends went to at the last Waynestock in 2022, but I did not attend because I had things to deal with, and but it sounded like a rager. So
yeah, I'll definitely have to try to go to it this year.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'd like to touch base about the thing we talked about last time regarding the celebrity that you met during a chess tournament. Would you mind telling that story?
Yeah, I can tell that story. So like, it could be hard to believe, but like if you Google the words Nelson Mandela and Seattle, you'll see that around like 1998, 1999, Nelson Mandela went to a hotel in Seattle for some reason. Like, I don't know why, but he was there, and like I was there for a chess tournament at the hotel, and like he whatchamacallit, he walked through the lobby, and like I was in the lobby also, and I was like one of the people lined up, and like I was like 5 or so obviously I had no idea who this person was. And like at some point, like he came and like shook my hand, and like he didn't shake anybody else's hand, which is funny. And then like I do remember like there are these huge security guards around him saying like no pictures or whatever. And like my dad was standing near me also, and like it's one of those things like you have to remember, I guess too, like people in the audience have to remember that like if you're like born sometime this millennium or whatever, or like later this millennium, maybe don't remember there's a time before everybody had a smartphone or whatever, so taking a picture without a flash on just some smartphone in your pocket wasn't as much of a thing back then as now. But it is funny though to think about it, how like I feel like some people think of meeting celebrities as like a huge thing, but like it's almost like meeting a celebrity is like, how do I describe it, like in that case, like one of my main memories was that his hand was wrinkly because I was like 5, didn't know who it was. But like even as an adult, like if you meet celebrities, it's like only meaningful, I feel, potentially if you like get to know them or whatever. Otherwise, it's like not much different than seeing them on TV or whatever, because you're not really actually meeting the person. You're just like getting like a glimpse of like vision of the person in person as opposed to on the screen or whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Back in like 2011, I worked at Good Morning America for a while as like a production assistant.
Yeah.
So there'd be all kinds of celebrities that would come through. Like the first day I was there, it was like Alicia Keys, Demi Moore, Jennifer Aniston, and then like Leonardo DiCaprio came in, George Clooney, all kinds of these people. And like, I kind of got used to like seeing them in person, and there was something a bit surreal about it, I guess, because like you the only reference you have of them is really like a 2D image. So it's kind of interesting to see how like your mind lines up with the reality, I guess. Like when you kind of like get like a 3D view of them or whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, I mean, it's just interesting because a lot of these people are just like really like blasted into our brains constantly. So
totally.
It's weird when you kind of like get the real representation or like the real one.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating too. Like I used to work. Like part of why I haven't told many people about that story is that like I think that somebody could think that I'm like some like holier than thou person. Like, oh, I met a world leader.
Yeah.
Like there are like other celebrities I've met too, and like it's interesting. It's like I feel like that's a complicated thing too, because I feel like there are some celebrities that probably don't want people to like see them as what they're famous for. Like without getting to specifics, like there are some celebrities, like one celebrity I've encountered where like they were in a band that was really famous where like one of the members of that band is dead. There are a bunch of bands that fit that description, and like I've never brought up that band around them, partly because I didn't know the person was famous for like the first 4 or 5 years of knowing them. Okay. And then like now it's like, oh well, I'm glad it's cool to know that they're famous, but it's also like cool knowing that I never brought up that band, because like I feel like that'd probably be, if they never brought it up around me, I feel like that's probably like a hard spot for them or whatever. It's like it's such a wild thing how like it can be so easy for somebody to be famous for something that they have like, I'm just guessing, but I imagine there are a bunch of people out there who are famous for something that they sort of feel uneasy about.
Yeah. Or like they had no real control of.
Oh yeah, totally.
Well, maybe it's something that we'll have to worry about someday.
Oh yeah, totally, maybe.
So you're going to Montreal soon?
Yeah, that's my plan, is to like head to Montreal, live there for the summer, then get back in late September. But also like being here for Wayne Stock. That's also my plan, which that would be flying there twice, flying back twice. But Montreal's such a cheap city that like a studio apartment in Seattle is more expensive than a 4-bedroom there. Wow. So like it seems that like in terms of cost of living and everything, as long as I like try to like eat grocery store food as much as possible and stuff, it seems like it would actually be cheaper than living here for the summer.
What type of food do you like to eat?
One thing that I like that I feel like I usually don't remember, like I feel like usually if somebody asked me off the top of the head I wouldn't think of it, but like poutine can be really great. Like
in Montreal,
especially too, like there's so many different types of poutine. Like there's like vegan poutine with tofu and stuff, and like
very filling. Like, seems like it's good for the cold weather.
I don't know. Like I feel like you can eat it in the summer and stuff. Like I've spent very little time in Canada in the winter. Like I was up there in December last year, and I feel like I maybe shouldn't have gone up there. Like I don't know, but it was okay though. Like because it's the thing. Like Vancouver has basically the same weather as in Seattle, but like that's the kind of bad thing, because like Seattle and Vancouver used to both like almost never get snow. Yeah. And now it's like Seattle and Vancouver get snow every year basically. Yeah. Not just snow, but like a foot or whatever that stays at some point, or enough to like shut the city down, which isn't that much considering that Seattle is sort of hilly and stuff. But yeah, but like I feel like if I could eat any foods in the world all the time, like I feel like it would be a combination of like poutine and like vegan foods. Like I feel like there are a lot of vegan fake foods that taste good as long as it's seasoned. Like I'm not gonna name the food truck in Seattle, but there was a food truck that its main deal was like vegan fried chicken, and it wasn't seasoned.
Oh yeah.
It was unseasoned vegan, and like the rice too was unseasoned. Oh no, not rice. It was the French fries. Like on the sign for it, like it was like the fries are basically green because it's like covered in garlic seasoning and stuff. Then I got them. It was like I saw like on the whole French fries, it was like one tiny speck of garlic or something. like, and like oh my god, like that was wild. But like rosemary is so amazing too. Like I wish I could like eat more foods with rosemary more often.
Do you cook?
I used to cook when I was in college. I would cook for myself regularly, but I feel like it's one of those things where like I feel like you have to like take your time at it to actually cook something. But then like if you're immediately hungry and you want to eat, then like it's tempting to just make something super fast.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
like
So what do you usually do for your food throughout the day?
I guess this would sound lame to some people, but like I guess like a lot of the time like I've either like I guess it's more like now I guess now that I think about it, like I have one job where I work with food, and like I've gotten leftovers from that job, and then I've also had like my dad like volunteers at a food bank, and it's okay. My dad volunteers at a food bank, and like he's been getting food from there. So I guess I've been getting a combination of free food from multiple avenues, so to speak.
It's the way to go.
But then I do occasionally get other food. Like occasionally I have eaten food at other places. Like I went to this restaurant called Via Tribunali where I got a pizza where like they hand you scissors with the pizza.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And they like whatchamacallit, like I had to like cut through the pizza. That was cool. Then like I guess that's another thing too. Like I wish the Pacific Northwest had. Well, I guess the Pacific Northwest does have In-N-Out, but just in Portland. But I wish there was an In-N-Out that was closer, and Whataburger. Like I've never had Whataburger, but allegedly it's really great. But like. Yeah, it would be cool. Like I'm not currently vegan, but like I think I do want.
You tried veganism
vegan one day? Like I haven't completely tried it. Like I feel like I mostly like. I feel like most of the food I get is free. Yeah, and I feel like it's
you're
one of those things where like, huh?
You're a freegan.
Yeah, sort of. Yeah, it's like I'm not Buddhist or whatever, but like it's Buddhism or some religion where it's like you're supposed to be vegan. But if it's food that would otherwise spoil or whatever, it's okay to like eat the meat or whatever because you're not really harming the animal or whatever. You're just eating something that would otherwise be gone.
Yeah. It's better than wasting.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
Yeah, that's cool. So do you have any like favorite performances you've ever done as a comedian?
Oh yeah, January this year I did a performance that I really enjoyed. I feel it was like my best of all time. Like I feel like with stand-up comedy, I feel like with my stuff, like I want each performance to be different, which is completely against what you're supposed to do. Like you're supposed to do basically the same set like 5 days a week or something until you know it perfectly, and then you're just stay on it. But like I've had a habit of typically doing a completely different set. Well, not completely different, like somewhat different set each time.
Yeah.
And then
yeah, you can keep going. You're good.
Yeah, so like like doing a different set and stuff, and like I feel like that would be a cool thing about Montreal too. Is like I should go to more open mics in Seattle, but I feel like if I was in Montreal, that I would like possibly try to do more open mics and like repeat myself more and like use that to
Oh, don't worry. Brooklyn is just cooking a steak, so she set off the smoke alarm.
Yeah, that's cool. It's almost like a beat, but like, yeah. So like,
right on. So how did they differ? You just kind of like you just pick from your jokes and
like
the order changes.
I feel like I have
a
huge catalog of stuff because like I'm 29 at this point, so I feel like that's a lot of life to have.
Yeah. So you've been doing this like 5 years now?
Huh? Yeah, this is my 5th year.
Right.
I started January 2018. It's funny too. It wasn't even like a New Year's thing. Some people start with the New Year or whatever, but with me, like, it was like I think I tried to start December 2019, but then my idea was like my first time I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it at this house called Werewolf Vacation.
Yeah, Werewolf. Yeah,
and then like I like there wasn't a way for me to do it at that point. Like it was like too soon, too short notice or whatever. But then like. It was January that there was the first time they were like, okay, my friend who goes by Lolly was like, she was like, okay, you can like do jokes between sets. So I was like, oh, cool. So like I did stand up material between sets, and I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Then my second time was a more traditional one. It was like an open mic.
Yeah.
And like,
where was the second one?
The second time I performed, it was at this place called Comedy Nest in Belltown. Comedy Nest is a thing in the basement of the Rendezvous.
Right on.
And like, I guess allegedly.
Hang on a sec. I'm just gonna check in on this.
Yeah, let's find out if we're gonna burn up or not.
Everything okay? Okay, no worries. Okay.
Yeah, supposedly.
Everything's okay.
Yeah, Supposedly the Rendezvous used to be like a speakeasy or something during Prohibition.
Yeah, it's got
like,
that vibe.
Yeah, I don't really know much about it, but that's fascinating.
I wonder if it's actually like if it was actually a speakeasy. I guess like when I think of like American history, for some reason, I only think about the big cities like Chicago, New York, and the East Coast. But like obviously, there's like a lot of seedy development out here in Seattle, and like if you look into it, there's all kinds of stuff that happened. Like it's just for some reason in my head like. Maybe it's just like Hollywood or something that like I'm just like so entrenched in the history of like. The Midwest and the East Coast. But
I feel like small town crime can almost be more interesting than big city crime because like with like obviously like big cities can have corruption and stuff, but it's interesting because like a small town like everyone knows each other, so like that's a whole another level of stuff. Like whatchamacallit, like how do you say it, like with small towns, like if you're in a position of power, you can do something, and there's not really gonna be any scrutiny. Like before, like any city, like big city or small city, it's not really all that different in a sense because like you still have your newspaper or whatever in either one, and then you would still have no cameras or anything due to it being a long time ago. But then modern times, on one hand, there are smartphones and stuff, but on the other hand, like there isn't much. It can be harder to pressure a small town, partly because like they're less likely to be local journalists and stuff, especially like local like investigative journalists. Because I feel like it's completely different than like journalists where you just like, I feel like there are different levels, like in depth versus not in depth. Like there are journalists out there, but like when there are in depth reports and stuff, I feel like it's most commonly on things happening in big cities and stuff. Like I feel like you almost only hear about officials in big cities doing big mistakes or whatever because that's where the focus is. But a small town, you could have all sorts of wild scandals and stuff for decades without anybody ever knowing about it because like nobody cares about like some town with like 50, 80 people or whatever.
Right, they just think of them as like bumpkins or whatever.
Oh yeah, totally. Because like they're I don't know, like if you're watching this in your small town, like yeah, you're a real person too. Like your stuff still matters, but unfortunately with the way media is today, like it can be harder for like representation to really happen with small towns in a sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, we kind of like just imagine that everyone is sort of living in the environment we live in sometimes.
Oh, totally, yeah.
It comes very obvious that it's not that way. If you like even just go to a different city in America or a different part of Washington, even like it's the density is a factor. Like,
totally.
But yeah, like big cities are just that's where the eyes are. That's where the influence is. So it's easy to like get sucked into that vortex.
Yeah, it makes me think about how like there was this debate among some people about like in the UK of like possibly moving some government offices to smaller cities partly due to like I think it's Westminster. I don't remember what the name of it where they actually convene, like Parliament convenes or whatever, but whatever the name of that building was, like it's going to have to be closed for repairs at some point or whatever, so like it'll have to be somewhere else. But like some people were saying that if more governmental activities happen in smaller places, that it would help those places get their needs met. But then like one of the counters in the debate was that like some parts of London aren't really that far from Parliament, but they still have a bunch of issues that need to be addressed. So it's like it's basically like on one hand like issues in like small towns, like it's harder to like hear about it or get like in-depth knowledge. But it's funny too, because like New York City, people think of New York City as just like subways everywhere and stuff, but there are like some parts of New York City where everybody has a car because like there's no subway nearby, because like that's not just how big the city is. That there are areas of New York City where like the outer boroughs where like
that's where like the majority of I guess families live. Maybe I'm not sure.
Like I'm not sure, but maybe yeah. But yeah, that's so fascinating how like there's just like so many angles that anything in life can be looked at, and that's like a cool thing that you get to experience like with comedy as well as like with traveling or just like having deep conversations with people all over the place, discovering like how different each place is in its own ways.
So Michael, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Just out of curiosity.
Like ideally, like it would be cool to be married with kids. Like I imagine any people, like I feel like a majority of people in my generation aren't into that, and I feel like that'd be really off-putting for some people to hear, but that would be the honest truth, I guess. Like, it's one of those things too where it's like, yeah, it would be stressful. Like, I've worked with kids, or like it's stressful working with kids, but at the same time, it's one of those things where like I feel like some people have this like sort of primal urge or whatever, and like me, I feel like I do have it a little bit, but like I'm glad that it's also under control, because like it's kind of funny. Like, I feel like in my whole adult life, I've often spent a lot of time with people who are significantly older than me, and like there have been a bunch of different times I've known a woman who's like in her late 30s or early 40s who's like, oh yeah, I never wanted to have kids. It's so wild, like how like some of the, like, I haven't even known them for like 30 minutes, and they're mentioning to me how like their ovaries are like in a hyperdrive or whatever. And I was like, oh wow, that's an interesting thing to find out after knowing somebody for 10 or 15 minutes. And like, I'm really glad that I'm not experiencing that. I'm really glad I'm like mentally in control. Like one person did offer to, well, not offer, like one person I knew like wanted to have a kid with me, and I didn't want to, but like it's cool too to like have like the peace of mind to like be able to like actually like think about things before doing them, as opposed to just doing them or whatever,
just acting on them.
Yeah, because like some people, like I feel like depending on how their biological chemistry is going on, like they get the opportunity to do something, they just go straight into it or whatever.
Do you feel like you're are you impulsive? I
feel like I'm usually not impulsive. I feel like I'm usually calculated. Like I've been playing chess since age 4 or 5, and I feel like I've had a habit of not being impulsive. Like, yeah,
that's good.
It can be kind of fun to be like a little bit impulsive, just occasionally, but only when it's something that doesn't completely matter. Like when playing like a chess computer, it can be fun to just like completely impulsively do a move, or like try like. At times I've like played chess computers in like timed games. Well, I guess that's not a good example of impulsive activity. I can't really think of a good example of doing something impulsive like in real life. It really like.
Do you feel like you could have you could make a move in chess that would seem impulsive to like throw off an opponent?
I feel like it could potentially sort of work, but like I feel like a lot of players are good enough that they wouldn't really necessarily have an effect on them. But it's kind of funny though. It's fun. You can make a move that looks impulsive that isn't impulsive, because there's some like sacrifices or like leaving a piece hanging or whatever, where if they capture it or whatever,
it could be a trap.
Like ruins them. And like so like they're like.
Do you know what a zugzwang is?
Yeah, I don't know if that's how it's pronounced or not, but like it's like when they have two options, but either one is bad, I believe. Like there's this internet celebrity that says, "Don't make problems for your enemies, make dilemmas." That makes me think of that, like how like a situation where either move they make, it's the wrong move or whatever.
That's a great line.
Yeah.
I think we'll have to use that one for the clip or whatever.
Yeah, it's funny though, because like I don't have enemies really. Like I'm really glad that like. It's funny, some people like romanticize these people out there who are like celebrities or whatever. Like I'm not really a celebrity, but like some people like romanticize like people who like are in constant conflict with people and stuff. But like that's one thing I've really enjoyed in my adult life, is that I typically don't really have to worry about any people like being an enemy or whatever. And I feel like too, that's one of the best things about adult life. I feel like I kind of wish I could speak at high schoolers or whatever, because like I feel like in like school, like before adulthood, a lot of people like they specifically go to school to have and make enemies and fight with enemies and stuff. Especially too, like somebody can gain social status from being a terrible person. It says not all the time, but like some people can. But like in adulthood, I feel like all the worst people I meet, they sort of just take themselves out of my life, which is great.
So Michael, I think you attract good people though, you know. So,
oh yeah, totally.
But like, what does emotional intelligence mean to you? Like, because you seem like a very even-keeled person. Like, you know, like I'm just curious if like, you know, the way that you experience the world compared to like an average person or whatever. Like, how does emotional intelligence come into play for you?
I feel like emotional intelligence, like, I actually do need to like talk about it more with people I know, especially too. Like, I feel like a lot of people who are like women or feminine identified, I feel like they're better at like having a concept of it. But like for me personally, like I feel like I like being around people who like are good at like perceiving others and like being aware of themselves, being aware of others, and also being aware of people's intentions versus their actions.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of like not attributing to malice what could be attributed to incompetence.
Yeah.
Like
Is that Hanlon's razor? Is that what it's called?
I'm not really sure. It could be. It's something like that.
Yeah.
Like somebody's razor. Like
Yeah.
and then like yeah, like emotional intelligence, like trying to be aware of like other people having their own struggles, you having your own struggles, and sometimes things don't quite like mesh together properly. Like but like it's good to have a concept of like being able to communicate needs when necessary. Like I guess like true, like I've never been in a relationship before, but like I do see now like it's one of those things like at 18 like I didn't know how to put it into words, but now I understand like the idea of like it would definitely have to be somebody who's able to communicate their needs and able to like also understand the needs of others and be able to like see the balance between things. They say it like yeah, I really wish like that's the thing too. Like, I feel like a lot of people like when it comes to any aspect of social interaction, they are only able to put it into like one sentence, some really short blurb or whatever. But I really want to meet somebody who's really analytical, but also able to put in emotional intelligence in the concept of like, oh yeah, that's another thing. Like in a relationship, like it would have to be somebody who, how do I say it? They're able to understand that it's about working as a team as opposed to attributing blame. So in any relationship, just from observation, it seems like at some point there is conflict, but ideally both people are able to like see, okay, how do we solve this together rather than, oh, look what you did. You always do this. Like there's like so many like things like I've witnessed a lot of toxic relationships and like I feel like it's a really wild thing. Like I feel like a lot of people who are like teenagers or like in their 20s or whatever feel like they're like pressured to be in a relationship, but I feel like that's a totally unhealthy thing, especially too considering that I feel like in education in school, I feel like people don't really learn about all the aspects of toxic relationships, red flags, green flags, etc. But that should totally be taught in school.
Yeah, they get more obsessed with like optics. And, appearance
totally.
And outward appearances and things.
Yeah, or even just how to healthily get into one and how like all the factors involved of like things that you might face, like how like there's some people who when they want somebody and they don't get that person, they get super angry about it, which doesn't make sense to me. It's like if you wanted someone and they don't want you, like why get angry about it? It's like
for sure, yeah.
That's the reality. Like there's like getting angry like seems really irrational. Though I guess the whole process of relationships is irrational. Like it would be great if like obviously things don't work this way, but I feel like it would be really cool if like each person shows up to the other person with a briefcase with all their positive and negative attributes, and then they just like exchange briefcases, then go over the briefcases with each other of like, oh, I see this positive attribute here, this lines up with this, oh cool, we have this same negative attribute that we're working on together or whatever. Then like
it'd be nice if things work that way.
It's like less fluid or whatever. Like a lot of people would find that totally off-putting, but I feel like it seems a lot more reasonable than how like I feel like some people like don't learn certain things until way too late, and like that would be really helpful for that. Then like with relationships, what else? Like I'm trying to think like. Oh yeah, so like back in 2022, I went on a date with somebody who's on the autism spectrum, and like it was funny to me. Like one of the things they said was, all 5 of my brothers are on the autism spectrum, but I'm not. I'm the normal one, which I thought was so funny to me. But it, the whole time, like they were giving so many hints they're on the spectrum. Like one of the hints was like I obviously didn't think of themselves as being on the spectrum, but like they would always present their positive attributes with a negative attribute, which is something I used to do in the past also, being neurodivergent as I am, like, which is not something you're supposed to do, because if you are constantly presenting negative attributes, like, some people think, oh, this person doesn't have value, which is funny, like, That's something that they don't really teach in school or whatever, how like a lot of people perceive people based on how that person sees themselves rather than who they are. So like some people think, oh, I'm not good at dating because I'm a good person or whatever. They think, oh, I'm too nice with it. Like there's some women even I've heard say stuff like that they think that only women who are less good are able to get partners or whatever. But it's more just that a lot of people are of any gender, I feel, will perceive somebody as better if that person themselves perceives themselves as better, which is very fascinating. Like there's some people who feel angry about dating. They feel like it's a competition. They're tired of competing, so they don't want to do it anymore. But it's like it becomes much easier when you no longer see it as a competition and see it as an attempt at getting your identity across to others. But at the same time, also, it's not just getting at your identity to others. It's also like some people, they act themselves and they are perceived as themselves, but some people act themselves and are not perceived as themselves. Yeah. That can come down to so many things like ethnicity, like me being of my complexion. Somebody might expect me to be bouncing a basketball while rapping and doing a drive-by, which those aren't things I would particularly be that into doing. But then like it can also be other factors too other than ethnicity, like gender, like that can have a bunch of, there's so many different ways. And then too, like neurodivergence, like there have been so many times in the past where like I was perceived as not being confident, which really surprised me because like I've been doing stand-up comedy and stuff. I felt confident my whole life. But then like once I was able to see myself through the eyes of others, it just makes life so much easier. Like being able to see oneself through the eyes of others, I feel like it's like the biggest game changer in like a wide variety of social interactions. Which is wild too, because like even now as I'm being seen by people on this podcast, like there's so many different ways I could be perceived potentially. And like,
well, what would you like people to know about you?
Like, I feel like ideally people would know that I do care about people and that like, I feel like there are times that it's easy to somehow make a mistake in some way or whatever, but like at the same time, like, what else? Like, I feel like a lot of the things that I've struggled with, I've overcome, and I feel like it can sound preachy at times, but I feel at the same time, I also see it as, like, I see myself as a lifelong learner. I feel like I'm constantly learning. I feel like there are a bunch of people I know who are extremely intelligent, who know more about some things than me, and it's cool to, like, get information from them. But I also recognize that in the past, there are plenty of times that I myself made myself seem like I lacked knowledge because the way it was my tone of voice or like the way I describe things or like there are a lot of ways to seem like you don't know anything when you do know things. There are a lot of ways to unintentionally seem like you know more when you know less. Yeah. And then like I feel like I never want to be perceived as knowing more than I actually know, but I also don't want to be perceived as knowing less than I actually know.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you heard of is it the Dunning-Kruger effect?
Oh yeah, I've encountered plenty of Dunning-Kruger before.
Like how would you explain it?
Like I would say that like it's like some people get a little piece of knowledge about something and then they think they know everything about it. Yeah. And it's really frustrating when that happens. But like,
have you seen the inverse of an intelligent person that feels?
Oh yeah, like I think most people who are really intelligent think they know significantly less than they actually know. And that's part of it too, is that if somebody knows a lot about math or something, that person isn't necessarily an expert on other things. But it's funny. So like I sent a resume of mine recently to a friend of mine who's a math professor. She's ridiculously intelligent. Like I feel like she might be the most intelligent person I know, which is no insult to other people I know. But like it was so funny. So like she responded to the email with like, hey, I don't think I'm the best person for this because, like, this isn't my profession and, like, a bunch of other things. Then she was like, but they actually, like, have this, like, highly detailed list of things for me to, like, improve about my resume. That was, like, better than what the actual career counselor person I went to had given me advice on. I was like,
oh, cool.
That's so funny. Like, I think part of it, too, is, like, a gender thing. Like, I feel like that's part of, like, why a lot of my people I've felt a connection to have been women is that, like, in the past, I used to over-apologize, and I used to do all these other things that are stereotypical of women to do, which will also make people think that you don't believe in yourself, and that you're not confident. But then at the same time, I feel like all those traits, like, I didn't even realize until last year a lot of those traits were present in people that I felt a connection to, like that. Like, I'm not close to that math professor that we're friends, but like I feel like the way that she said that about like not being an expert on stuff, I feel like that was the exact way I would describe so many things, and I would talk with people even if I was familiar on the subject. I would seem like I knew less than I actually did.
Yeah, but I'd like to see that resume, and I'd like to see the feedback sometime.
Oh yeah, totally. I'll have to like show both of those to you, because like it was really cool feedback. Like I had a lot of things wrong with that resume. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I'd like to see what her perspective would be.
Oh, totally.
Yeah. Cool. Well, have you got anything? You're performing again before Waynestock in Seattle, right?
Oh yeah, I have multiple performances coming up. So like, let's see. So my next one is this Friday, June 9th. I'm performing at Northwest Film Forum. It's a show called Disabled List. This will be my first time co-hosting
Disabled List.
Yeah, Disabled List.
And who hosts that?
It's usually Dan Hurwitz and Kayla Brown, but this time it'll be me and Kayla Brown hosting.
Okay, right on. And you've done that before?
I've never hosted there before, but I've been performing on it since, like, I guess my first time performing on it was before the pandemic. And then I've performed on it since the pandemic. Since, like, obviously, like, some people would be upset by me saying that because, like, yeah, people are still dying. So, like, it still matters. But I would say after things reopened, and, like, vaccines came out and stuff. So, like, I've been performing on it since then.
Cool. Is it every month?
At one point, it was every 2 months or something. And then now it's a different schedule, I guess. Like, I performed on it in January. I performed on it in April, I believe. So I guess there was like a 2-month gap or so. And then, like, now I'm performing it on it this June. And then I guess if it's taking place this summer, like between like July 2nd and late September, it sounds like I'll miss one. But
yeah.
Oh well, like,
right on. Would you ever have like a recurring show that you hosted? Would you like to do that at some point?
Yeah, I'm thinking when I get back from Montreal, I think I want to start producing more regularly. Like, it's fun to produce. Like, I like being in leadership positions, and I like it too because, like, I feel like I'm a fair person. I guess, like, the Disabled List producers, they're fair also, but, like, there are some people who produce comedy shows where they don't pay some people, which doesn't make sense to me. Like, it happens with music too. Like, you're in the music world, like, it's so wild to me, the idea of, like, oh, you're just the opener, you don't get paid. That doesn't make sense to me. Like on my last production, like, there was one person who did 5 minutes, but I still paid them. Because I feel like if somebody's paying money via bus or whatever to get to your show, I gave the person a rise. They didn't pay money to get there. I still paid them anyway. Cause,
I like that though.
I feel like if you're making money on something, if it's not an open mic, I feel like ethically a person has an obligation to pay at least a little bit of money.
I think it's a good look. Yeah, it's like, you know, and also you got to keep it in perspective. Like, usually for most like performances or something like that, you're making like, you know, maybe it's. I mean, it can vary obviously. But like, if you're working a job, you probably, if you spent 4 hours at your job, you'd most likely be getting paid more than going and doing comedy. So like, I think a bit of compensation is still important, and it makes it, you know, kind of sustainable. Or it makes people in their head feel like there's some value to what they just did. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I kind of rolled in this way where, like, for a while, where, you know, I wouldn't compensate everyone. Like, it would just be like the touring bands only, which I could see that sometimes as being a thing. But like, one time I threw this house show, and there was a touring band, and there was like 50 people that came to the house. It was like Rose Garden, remember that?
Oh yeah, totally.
And you know, there was a bunch of money that ended up coming in, and there was a touring band. It was like 2 of them, and this touring band ended up like playing and getting like hundreds of dollars, and no one else got any money. And I just felt like it wasn't like, I kind of like, at that time I thought it was like, you know, the right thing to do, to just give the touring band the money. But I think that everyone should get like a little bit of compensation, you know, at this point. Like, I think that, you know, you're already doing a massive favor for a touring band when you're like hooking them up with a place to play, and, you know, they get to make these connections and they get to do their performance. And, like, you know, it's obviously a very expensive, stressful thing to do, but, you know, I think that it's important to compensate everyone involved if possible.
Yeah, especially with music and like paying for instruments and stuff.
Exactly. There's all kinds of things like that. So yeah, I guess since this is kind of like meant to be a bit Wayne Stock focused, like
oh my bad.
no, like or just like event, like do you have any advice for someone like on like how they could like produce a show if it was comedy or music? Like what would you tell someone?
Like I guess like how to say it like one way to do it is like contact local restaurants and bars and stuff and see if they're willing to put on a show. But like I feel like my favorite sort of place to perform is like a house sort of, because like assuming like the residents are down with it and stuff, it's cool to have one. Like on one hand there's a disadvantage in producing a house show, is that like you have to ideally rely on word of mouth in terms of like the location of the show, because like you don't want to like necessarily put somebody's home address on posters everywhere and stuff, but at the same time like it's kind of cool how like it's like a cozier aspect and stuff. That's what's fun to me about producing house shows. But then like there are event spaces and stuff, and like assuming you have a job and work enough, you can potentially like get an event space or whatever and put things on, and you just try to like, you have to remember to like communicate actively with people, keep people updated, like, and if something goes wrong you just have to like take the fall or whatever. Like if like I'm trying to think L. Like one time one time I was trying to produce a show at this house, but like the thing about it is like this was not that long after the ghost ship fire in San Francisco, which is where a house show place burned down and people lost their lives because like it was like how would I say it, like not fire safe. So like this house in particular, like it was like a very not what you would normally think of like a house, like completely different. Like it was like down an alley, there was like this like entrance to like this building as like this giant like warehouse space with a bunch of like wooden cubicles and stuff, and like that was gonna be my first like legit production.
Was that in Soda?
No, it was on Capitol Hill.
Okay.
But yeah, it was like from the outside it looks almost like an apartment building or something with like some like stores or whatever on the bottom. But then like you go down the alley and through the door, it's like whoa, giant space with like. And then it was cool too because like you could like stand or sit on a cubicle thing while watching a band play. So like I saw Gloss, Girls Living Outside of Society's SH Word.
Yeah.
They're back in like 2016 maybe, something like that. But like, yeah, but like, so anyway, that was gonna be my show. But like, as soon as like I got the notice that like the fire department was shutting the place down, then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna tell everybody involved, and like, because that's like one of the wild things in life is that sometimes something goes wrong and then somebody doesn't want to tell people because they're gonna feel bad or whatever, and it's like some people like it's one of the ways that some people end up staying in bad relationships, as well as one of the ways that some people end up being bad with like a lot of things in life is like too much people pleasing. But it's like you have to let people know things if
for sure
you have to let people know things if like things go wrong, because otherwise people are showing up everywhere or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, where's the show? It's like you can't just like there's so many ways that like if people need to know something about it, then too it's good to like try to like not assume things too much. I feel like that goes with like relationships, like romantically as well as like workplace things. I feel like some people in a leadership position, like producing a show or in the workplace or whatever, they want people to do something a certain way, but then they don't tell people that they wanted that thing done in a certain way.
Yeah.
Like I heard it recently about somebody letting somebody borrow their car, but then not telling them that it needed a specific type of gas in it.
Yeah.
And like the thing about it is like that person had read the manual for the car and they saw, oh cool, this is the type of the gas this car is supposed to have. But then that person had actually been doing like a completely different type of gas than what the manual said.
Oh no.
So that person is like thinking like, oh no, am I gonna get sued because this person was legit getting rid of their car just because a different type of gas had been put in it, like, which it didn't even like ruin the car or whatever too, because like
it's dangerous to assume things, I guess.
Oh totally, yeah. So that's a good thing about when you do Wayne Stock. I feel like you communicate with people and like you let people know when it will be, where it will be, and stuff, and like I feel like the communication is at a level that's when things are needed to be known, that they're known, I feel like.
Well, thank you. Yeah. I think that I'm kind of like self-conscious about communication in general because I think that it's just something that I really hope that I'm good at.
Yeah.
So I think I kind of worry sometimes that I'm not, but I think that after, putting on shows for a while, like I realize how important it is to just be explicit. And sometimes like you don't know if people have like read messages you send them and stuff, and that can be a bit annoying sometimes. So I feel like as a band, it's just good to, or as a booker, or whatever part you play, it's like just good to over communicate sometimes.
Oh yeah, totally.
With the risk of being sounding repetitive or something like that. Yeah. Like it's just something you have to do sometimes. And like if someone has a problem with it or whatever, like it's too bad, I guess.
Oh yeah, I guess that would be another advice thing too about like producing events and stuff, is that like, especially with stand-up comedy, is that like sometimes you think you know someone and you don't, so it can be good to like sometimes over communicate about like boundaries and stuff, like how like with comedy, like when I produce, I try to let people know like, hey, like don't do misogyny or racism or whatever, because like there have been times in the past, like during the pandemic, like that's like when I was the most prolific at producing shows. I was producing a Zoom show pretty much every week, and like ended up happening like there were like 2 different cases where somebody like had like misogynistic or transphobic or whatever stuff in their set, even though like I had warned about it ahead of time. Hey, don't do this or whatever.
Well, that's annoying.
And it was like irritating, and it's like
so
it makes me look bad too. It makes me look like I'm like supporting this or whatever. And then, like I actually like kicked one person out of the Zoom or whatever.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like, and then like I didn't realize this at the time, but I guess like I don't understand how this works, but like they were able to just get back into it repeatedly. Like I don't really understand how that.
So they got back in. Do they continue?
They like just like sit themselves back in and like argue with them and get them out. Like it was like this whole thing, and like one of the comedians, like it was like, so like I feel like some people would think Zoom comedy is boring, but to me, like this is like one of the best things ever, because I was meeting people all over the world. So like it was like an American comedian was the one who was like the problematic person, and like 1 or 2 of the British comedians on the show. So there was like the best comedy show like in general they'd ever been to, like in person or online, or like
I mean
like this person was getting roasted too, because like there was a friend of mine who was also in the Zoom thing who like she was like roasting the guy and stuff. Like that was like I really hope I get to see that friend again at some point. Like she's like in academia and like she's super busy, so like she's like in the humanities and stuff, and like I'd only seen her like twice or so. I guess that's a bad thing about when women friends are straight or whatever, because I feel like some of them it's harder to see them because I feel like they have this mentality of not being friends with men or whatever. I'm not really sure if that's like that with her or not, but like yeah,
it's interesting how like these things are still very much at play in this day and age. Like it seems like sometimes it seems very old-fashioned or something.
It
that,
totally does seem old-fashioned. Like,
but there are like just kind of certain comfort levels that people have with like 2 heterosexual people like being friends.
Or
whatever, or anything. I mean, and I always wonder if it's easier in like homosexual communities for people to be friends, or I don't know. That might just like make me sound like a caveman or something. Like that.
This sounds a little bit caveman.
But like, you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
Yeah, I get what you mean though. Like I think it's weird though, because like there are all sorts of factors. Like it's funny. So like there were 2 like gay women I met who were like not classmates, but they went to the same school as me. I spent time with them, and like one was like white presenting and one was black, and like it was really funny to me. Like they told me that there's this like rumor in the lesbian community that gay men don't like lesbians, which I thought was funny. Like I don't know if that's true or not, but they said that. And like it happened like the same day I was talking with them, that they said they went to a cafe in Capitol Hill, which obviously has like a reputation for being like a gay neighborhood or whatever, and like the 2 women, like they were at the cafe, and like it was funny to me that they said that, like 2 gay men were giving them a dirty look or whatever, and I thought that was like so funny. But like to be honest, like when I told them, I was thinking like, what if they're not anti-lesbian? What if they're just like racist but gay? What if they're thinking like, hey, what if they're thinking in their heads like, oh, I'm totally okay with people being gay, but they can't be interracial and gay. That would be really funny.
I know, it's funny. Like I feel like,
but it's a real thing though. Like some people are like pro-trans, pro-LGBT in all sorts of ways, but then they're racist. Then some people are like anti-racist, and they're pro-LGBT. There are like different ways that people mix and match different things. Like, some people are like,
it's pretty funny.
Some people are like pro-gay, pro-race, like anti-racist. I guess we can't really say pro-race anyway, but like
pro-race.
But then they're but then they're anti-trans, which is so weird to me. Like there's so many different ways. Or like
you mean like TERFs and stuff?
Yeah, TERFs and stuff. Yeah, and it's like. I feel like intersectionality is really undervalued and stuff. I guess that's like a good thing, like when producing shows or whatever, to have diversity, because especially like in stand-up, I feel like there are too many shows where like almost everyone is like the same demographic.
Yeah, totally.
And then like it makes the show kind of bland, because like sometimes you have a stand-up show where there'll be like 5 or even like 8 different performers,
the same
each
jokes,
one is doing like almost the same material, the same perspective and stuff. And it's like, how is this like? Could you really not get like more like genders or whatever on?
And I feel like your comedy will get stronger like the more groups you can reach.
Oh yeah, totally.
Like, the more universal you are, and it's a great thing. I think it's great to just like switch things up, you know.
Yeah, I think about it too. Like I'm not a professional chef, but like if I had there's if you've seen all the American Horror Story ones, there's one where like a parent gives their kid an apple and apple juice at the same time, or applesauce and apple juice at the same time. I feel like I would never do that to anyone I care about, because like if you're a professional chef or anyone, I feel like you should have a variety of palates or whatever. Like I feel like potatoes are an exception. I feel like potatoes, like I'm totally down to have French fries with like mashed potatoes or whatever, because like those are completely different things. Especially too, like, you can season them completely differently.
Yeah.
But like it's like with music or anything, I feel like it's good to have multiple flavors in a sense a little bit. Unless it's like, I like going to punk shows a bit. It is cool to like go to a punk show where like all the bands are like raw punk or whatever.
Sure,
but,
yeah.
Like
sometimes it works.
But like with Wayne Stock, that's a cool thing. Like I feel like it's a variety of musical acts.
Totally.
And stuff. So
yeah.
I guess it's good how there's like you're getting a varied palette.
Yeah.
Like one time I went to a grindcore festival, and I think it was like maybe 13 hours long or so, and I think I like started to sort of overdose on grindcore like maybe like 10 or so hours into it. I was like, oh wow, I can never hear grindcore again, because I've just heard like each band is the exact same style for like 10 hours or whatever.
Yeah, that sounds very repetitive.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Michael. This has been a real pleasure. And
totally,
I look forward to having you at Wayne Stock once again for the 4th time.
Yeah, totally. I look forward to it too. Like, I hope everything works out with everything. It was like
it'll be great, man. Yeah,
and all that.
You'll be in Montreal, and then you'll be back. All right.
Totally.
Well, thanks a lot, man. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Yeah. All right, dude. Good job. Totally. I feel like that's probably like your longest podcast episode.